Hello, everyone. Welcome to another exciting version of Chip Talks podcast for Chip Talks Health. So, today we're going to talk a little bit about immune health. We're always talking about immune health, but we're also going to talk a little bit about the holidays, kind of what happens to a lot of us around the holidays and why. So, why do you get sick? That's a kind of an interesting question. According to medical science, it just happens. It's a random thing. And if you're near someone with COVID, then you're going to get COVID. Or if you're near someone with influenza, you're going to get influenza. It really doesn't work that way. Okay. So let me talk you guys through a little bit about how your immune system works and kind of how we deal with all these pathogens and bugs. And then we'll talk a little bit about what we do around the holidays and why a lot of us do get sick and what you can do to prevent those things, right? So are there things that you can do to prevent disease? Absolutely. Are there things that you can do when you're around your family to keep from sharing bugs with your family? Absolutely. So we will talk that through a little bit. But first of all, let's talk a little bit about how you work. Okay. And again, this is kind of, when I bought my lawnmower, when I bought my chainsaw, when I bought my screwdriver set, they all came with instruction manuals. So here's how you operate this thing. Here's how you care for this thing. Here's how you handle certain conditions. Let's say with this thing, maybe, here's what you do with this thing if it gets sick. But no one ever gave me an operations manual. And I'm sure, God would have intended us to have one. God probably has written one somewhere or had some human write one for him that's somewhere somehow. And again, I've written one. So God had me write one that's up on our website that you can get at Chip Talks Health. So if you go to Chip Talks Health, there's an operations manual for humans under the book section. You can download that for free. And I'll talk a lot more about what I'm going to talk about here in a lot more detail. But here's the thinking and here's the premise. And again, this is all provable. When I say thinking and premise, I'm talking really as a scientist. And, I'm talking about highest probability as a mathematician. None of the statements, let's say, that I'm going to make are unsubstantiated or well, if I get into my opinion, I'll tell you guys when I'm in theory and Chip's opinion. But everything that I'm going to tell you, you can look up. You can run it through chat. Have chat open while you're listening to Chip Talks and validate me, please. That'd be great. And again, I love that because we try to speak truth here, and so truth is always validated, right? Which is cool beans. Okay, so let's talk this through a little bit. So God is a perfect engineer. And what do I mean by that? I mean, God made you pretty darn perfect. And he made your human form really perfect. Everything in you is always striving to heal and get better and repair. Nothing in you is striving toward dysfunction, disrepair, disorganization, disease. There's nothing in you that's trying to do that. There are things that are after you that are trying to do that to you, but there's nothing like your heart isn't trying to do that. I think I'll be diseased today and dysfunction and mess up, right? Or your liver isn't trying to do that. I think I'll be a bad liver today and have hepatitis. Although that would be a cause, right? So your organs don't just fail, cells don't just fail, systems don't just fail. It takes something for that to happen. Okay. And so I really want you guys to start thinking about yourself with some cool analogies. And I think of Starship Enterprise because I'm just a weird Trekkie. But again, the Starship Enterprise had shields. You don't want to fly into the Klingons with your shields down. You've got sort of this analogy about shield strength and what makes shields stronger. That, if that isn't your favorite analogy, a castle's a pretty good one, right? So again, the basic principle, let's say, of, the Starship Enterprise or the castle itself is it always wants to heal itself. So it's always trying to heal itself, all right? Always, always, always. And it doesn't matter how old you are, how sick you are, how diseased you are, how near death you are. It doesn't matter. Everything in you is always striving toward Perfect. So your castle's always trying to heal itself. Starship Enterprise is always trying to fix itself, let's say. So that's, and again, that's provable. You can think of that in cellular dynamics, how a cell works, but all cells are always trying to, repair themselves, right? And if they can't, they just divide and form a new perfect self. So everything in us is always striving toward perfect, meaning our heart is striving toward perfect. So if you have some heart issue, that ain't perfect. There's a cause for that. Our kidneys are striving toward perfect. If you got some kind of kidney issue, again, that ain't perfect. You are always striving toward perfect. So there will be a cause for that. If you have gut issues, I had a guy come in the other day and he told me about that he had to take baking soda every time he ate. That ain't normal. Okay. That ain't normal. It takes a cause. It takes something for that to happen. If you have to take Tums every day, that ain't normal. Okay. That means that there's something going on. There's something wrong. So now let's extend this to the holidays. I got up this morning and I coughed a little bit. Is that normal? No, it's not normal. It takes something for that to, your lungs are well functioning. They know how to pull in oxygen and spit out carbon dioxide, and they're really well mechanically done. So it takes something for you to cough. Then it might be a little dust mite. It might be something you're allergic to. It might be a virus, might be a fungus, might be a bunch of different stuff. But again, normal functioning of lungs is breathing in and out, not coughing. Same with sinuses. Again, our sinuses should be clear and open. And, at certain times during certain stimulus, it takes a cause, though. We'll get a runny nose, but it takes a cause, right? So if you're not normal, and again, what is normal? Kind of a tight little band, let's say, not doing this, right? So if I wake up super depressed, or if I wake up with a runny nose and lungs and all that, that ain't normal. Okay. That ain't normal. So that ain't normal. And that means that something has gotten through your castle walls or gotten through the shields of your Starship Enterprise. Okay. That's all it means. All right. So that's interesting, right? So where does a runny nose come from? Where does, the flu come from, or influenza? And we are exposed to all manner of stuff all the time. So I have people ask me all the time, because hookround and pinworm is something that we see in people a lot that we help here in our clinic. And people come in and ask me, well, how do I get them? I mean, it's not like I skip barefoot through horse poo every day, right? So how in the world do I get these worms? Again, it just happens. They're part of our environment. They could be in our food. They could be, spraying them on us. Who knows? But they're everywhere in our environment. So just, don't even worry yourself about how you get stuff. Just assume that you're going to get exposed to everything all the time. Okay. And so that's a scary thought for a lot of us, because that would mean in our old thinking that we're going to get sick with everything all the time. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying you're going to get exposed to everything all the time. And it depends on the strength of your castle walls and your shield strength as to whether you get sick or not. Okay. And also kind of the, number of attacks, let's say, that's happening. So if you've got, 12 viruses trying to attack you, you're going to have a hard time fighting all of those off. You're way better designed to fight off kind of one at a time. But anyway, we get exposed to everything. So, when we, and again, we have a scanner, a bioresonance scanner that's non-medical, it's informational, but it's really good at, let's say, picking up things in frequency. And in frequency, we see all manner of pathogens inside of people all the time. I just saw diphtheria in somebody. We see polio all the time. All manner of hookround and pinworm, tapeworms, H. pylori. So we all get this stuff. Okay. Now the question is, what happens when you get it? What does the owner's manual say when we get exposed to all this stuff? Because we all get exposed to all this stuff. Well, the owner's manual says you better have a good immune system, and you better understand how to work your immune system. Okay. So how do we work our immune system, and is it variable? Well, yeah, it's variable. Okay. So you definitely have a low gear as to your immune system, and you have a high gear as to your immune system. Now, the immune system is vastly complicated, and I'll do a whole show, let's say, on the immune system sometime, but it's a 20 or 30 minute discussion on how your immune system works. But let's just say you have to recognize, kind of in a big way, 3 different things. So something that's going to hurt you, something that is you, and a nutrient. Okay. So we've all got to be able to recognize in our immune system what is a pathogen, and oh no, that's not me. Bam, I'm going to attack that thing. What is a nutrient? So what is a food? Something that's benign. It's not me, and it's not something that's going to hurt me. And then what are me, right? And so you put a pow name tag on all those cells that you create. It's called CD55. So I put a little chip name tag on all the cells that I create. But your immune system still has to decide, is that a nutrient or is that something bad, right? And then you have horsepower associated with that basically event. And so if your immune system senses something, depending on what it is, like if it's seen it before, it's going to do a different type of response, kind of a more of an antibody response. If it's never seen it, it's just going to try to kill it. And that's a different type of response. But those responses take energy, right? So it, right now I'm rocking and rolling, just being Chip. I'm not infected with everything. And an Epstein Barr comes along, whoop, takes its way into my system. And now I've got to fight that off. That takes work and energy. Hopefully that's obvious to everybody. So that's going to take some, let's say, gasoline to be able to run our immune system to be able to fight stuff off. And it takes more gasoline if we're exposed to stuff, right? So the more stuff that we're exposed to, kind of the more gas we've got to have to, defend that castle or defend that Starship Enterprise. And again, how we defend that's an omega-3 and omega-6 discussion, which we've done a lot of shows on that, and I'll continue to do shows on that because it's a very important discussion. But we need to eat omega-3 and omega-6 in balance. But here's the biggest thing, okay? Here's the biggest thing about your castle or your Starship Enterprise is the cost of eating, all right? So when we eat, we go into low gear. And you go into low gear because high gear for us is burning fat. And so we can't be burning fat and dealing with and storing fat at the same time. You're just not designed to do that. So what happens is your body has to change gears, and you throw this major lever in your body called AMPK, and your body goes into a degraded state where it's running, most of the cells are running on glucose rather than oxygen and fat. And that's a 20 times less degraded state. So you're 20 times less functional. Now, if you have to defend your castle walls or you have to put up shields for the Starship Enterprise, that freaking matters. That matters a lot because you're 20 times less powerful, 20 times less robust, 20 times less responsive, 20 times less have the ability to fight stuff off if you're in a fed state. Now, how do I go in a fed state? If I eat more than 50 calories, and I will stay in a fed state for 5 hours, okay? For 5 hours after eating. All right, so you likely know where I'm going to kind of go with some of this, but what do we do in the holidays? We all get together and eat. And again, the time of day that you eat also matters. Your body wants to work on certain organ structures and organ systems at certain times. So if you eat during those times, your body's going to work on dealing with nutrients rather than dealing with the systems that it needs to be dealing with. So between 11 a.m. and 1 p.m. every day, we're dealing with our heart. We're dealing with our heart system. So it's really not a time where you want to be eating because, again, we want heart repair, and heart's a major organ. We want literally as much time on task with those major organs as we possibly can have, okay? So eating is consequential. And when we get around family and eat, guess what? We all drop our shields. We all expose ourselves. We all lessen our castle walls. And so anything that mom's has, I'm going to be exposed to. Anything that sis or brother or cousin or kids have, I'm going to get exposed to. And if I've eaten, right, then I'm going to be just super weak. I'm going to be a vulnerable target, probably. Most of us are right now. There's, that will get less and less as we really understand kind of what to eat and how to really drive these systems that we're not even beginning to optimize right now. So if I said, or if you ask me, Chip, how would I optimize my immune system? What's the perfect things to eat and the perfect times of day to eat them? we're just to the point where we're able to do that, right? So, and again, I'm, humbly said, I mean, I'm in a very small percentage of people that are looking at things this way. So it's just, those few of us that are looking at things this way, we're just beginning to kind of map all this out. But the cool thing is all this is coming. So what can you do if you're going to be around family? What can you do, let's say, to better defend yourself and kind of make sure that you have a very robust and functioning immune system? Okay, well, let's talk this through. So there's obviously supplements that really help. And so supplements with zinc, quercetin, turmeric, ginger. So like our Vitality supplement is a very good immune boosting supplement that will help, basically the herbs in there kick up the function of things in the immune system that we really need to defend ourselves. And so that's a very, very good supplement. Eating more omega-3. So balancing omega-3 and omega-6 is super important to our health anyway. So we all need to do that. But the biggest thing is eating behavior. So again, if you can eat your meals, later, your family meals, that's more advantageous. And again, if you can not eat and be around family, that's the most advantageous because you really won't share the bugs, right? So we all enjoy that time of, let's say, that meal time, around family and talking, and that's where we get caught up and all that. But at the same time, that time, can be detrimental. I use as an example my people. So I'm a Chickasaw. I'm Chickasaw Indian. So, and I am, card carrying Chickasaw. So I'm fascinated with kind of what we used to eat and how we used to behave and all that versus now. So right now in my tribe, people are, our diabetes incidence and obesity incidence is way worse than the normal population. And it's off the charts. And, whatever the Indian Health Services is doing to address that obviously isn't working. It's a problem that's getting way, way, way worse and not better. So you look at, well, what did we used to do? Well, we used to, and this is, I think, advantageous. So if we're going to eat together, if we just do it kind of once a day, that's the most advantageous. And so if we're just kind of eating, let's say, one big meal a day, that appears to be very a lot kinder, let's say, on your system than eating three big meals a day or eating three times a day. Now there's instances, I'll have some doctor or something contact me after this. So there's certainly certain, let's say, health instances where you want to eat smaller meals that are less work, let's say, on your system. But in a perfect world, if you're robust and you're healthy, you want to work your system. So you want to give it some stuff that's really hard to digest, right? But anyway, eating that one meal a day seems to be very, very advantageous health-wise, right? So as you look at how a cell works, our metabolics, kind of if you look at the owner's manual and you say, how can I optimize this lawnmower? Well, kind of eating once a day appears to be it. Now, we're not ready for that yet, right? We're not really ready for that yet. We all enjoy food. We're all addicted to food. I mean, and you don't believe me? I'm not addicted to food, Chip. What are you saying? Oh, don't eat today. Yeah, just don't eat today. Then you'll find out how addicted to food you are. You don't need to eat every day. So you don't have a nutritional need to eat today. None, zero, zip, nada, nilch. Okay. So over the course of 3 or 4 days, there's some things that you likely will need. You can go 40 days without eating, let's say, if you condition your body to do that and stay relatively healthy. Okay. So we don't need to eat every day. So go a day without eating and see what your head does and what your mind does and what your body does. And then you tell me you're not addicted to food because we all are. Okay. And we all get a certain enjoyment out of it. And it's just something that we're going to have to kind of eventually get there and face as a society. But anyway, what my peeps used to do, eat one big meal, and that appeared to be very advantageous. It appeared to be very advantageous culturally. We all kind of got together. It was bigger than just family. It was kind of the entire, let's say, aspect of the tribe that lived in the same location. Oh, and by the way, we didn't, we lived in cities. We lived in, we didn't live in teepees and scrape out into existence. We had cities. But that used to be our behavior, right? And so we didn't have diabetes then, and we didn't have obesity, and we weren't, dying of all these things that we're dying of now. So, there's got to be some magic, right, in those old behaviors, and there certainly is. But anyway, so as you kind of be around your family this holiday season, it's already kind of too late because most of us have had Thanksgiving and Christmas already, but next year, And this is the why you feel sick right now. It's because we've all dropped our shields and dropped our castle walls with our eating behavior. We get around family or friends and we share things. So we'll share all our bugs. And so whatever they got, you got, whatever you got, they got. And depending on the overall, let's say, strength of your immune system, those things can take hold or not. But that's kind of the way it works. So anyway, you can also kick up the strength of your immune system again with supplements and ginger. Anything that flips the AMPK switch is a pretty good natural supplement for this type of thing. Let's say for metabolics. And there's lots of things in nature that do that, but resveratrol does that. Turmeric does some things like that and kind of helps with that process. Ginger does some things like that, helps with that process. So there's some really good immune boosting tools out there. And we've got several, ours are more targeted. Our Vitality product in True Medics is pretty targeted toward exactly what I'm talking about, kind of boosting the immune, although it does other things. But we have, depending on kind of where you're weak, let's say, we've got different ways to boost. So, you might be weak because you've got some other infection, right? And most of us, probably 90% of the people that we see in our clinic here will, in frequency, indicate for a hookworm and pinworm infection, or that they have hookworm and pinworm in them, which would mean they're infected with them. You would logically conclude. Got to be careful not to make claims, but anyway, but you would logically conclude, that they had a hookworm and pinworm. So we built supplements, and these supplements are based on stuff that's very well known to work: wormwood and black walnut seed hull, thymol, and things like that. So we built supplements that we're getting great reports on working very well with pathogens, with hookworm and pinworm. If your gut burns when you eat, or if you have burping or upset, or, talk to somebody who had to sleep sitting up, it was so bad. So that's not normal. God is a perfect engineer, but that's most likely H. pylori. And so we built a supplement for that. So we've got some very specific, let's say, immune boosting things. Will that boost your immune? Yeah. H. pylori, your immune system, this is what a lot of people just don't understand. So you're resource limited. So you've got a bucket of stuff for I'm not going to show you what that guy's is, but you've got a bucket of stuff for your immune system every day, right? Let's say you've got a bucket of energy or gasoline, or however you want to think about it, for your immune system, to run your immune system. If you're fighting 12 forest fires, you're going to suck through that resource pretty quick. Right. So your body has to make priorities. It has to decide, is this one worse than that one? And I'm really going to throw a lot at this one and not so much at that one. But again, if you cut back on infection and cut back on the work your immune system is going to have to do, then it's much more robust. So part of the strategy of being around family and not getting sick is checking yourself out for any kind of previous infection. So if you've got a hookworm and pinworm infection, you're going to be weaker and more susceptible to catching something. If you've got an H. pylori infection, you're going to be weaker and more susceptible about catching something. So we've kind of figured out in our clinic, which is kind of nice. So if you're in Edmond, Oklahoma, come see us at Neighborly Wellness. And if you're not, pick up the phone, call, find somebody who does a similar type thing. We have two methods of evaluation. One is, a frequency tool that we use that can kind of detect some of these things in frequency. It's non-medical. It can't make any determinations. It's not a diagnostic, blah, blah, blah. But it's informational, and it at least gives us a starting point to try to help somebody, right? So it's, it looks like you might have H. pylori, and so our product might work for you, and so let's start and try. But that is pretty effective. And, you can check us out on social media and all that to find that out for yourself. But anyway, we've got a pretty good system here. We're on it. We've got it pretty well figured out. And we every day try to help you guys understand where we're at, help you guys understand that there's a better way, and, how you can do this kind of on your own. So anyway, we'll be back next year. Well, maybe not. Yeah, next year. Yeah, because it'll be next Friday. Will definitely be next year with another exciting Chip Talks podcast. We do have big plans for Chip Talks in 2025. We expect to very much expand this platform. I'm going to have a lot more guests on, hopefully be guests on other people's podcasts. So we're going to do a lot more blah, blah talking in this coming year. At least we're planning on that. So anyway, we'll see you guys next time for another exciting version of Chip Talks.